Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the NSSR. This is your host, MD-Talks, once again reminding you to run your own race to medicine one day at a time. I have an amazing guest with me here, and I know you'll love to hear her story. Without further ado, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Candice Blacknall. I'm a fourth year MD-MBA candidate at Morehouse School of Medicine and Georgia Tech Scholar College of Business. And I had a really non-traditional route to medicine. So I started in the military and I had no idea I was going to go into medicine. If you had asked me, I would have said I was going to be a cultural anthropologist. I was going to travel the world. I deployed in a medical position. So I was a combat medic and I loved it. I loved everything that I did. And I was like, you know what? I could see myself doing this for a career. So even though I was a psych major, I came back, I finished my bachelor's degree, and then I did a post-bac. And then applied to medicine. There were definitely some bumps there. So I took the MCAT twice. It was a bit of a nightmare experience. But ultimately I applied, what was that? This time has flown. So I guess 2016 now. Yeah. Applied in 2016, came to Morehouse. So yeah, that's my story so far.
Awesome. Thank you. And you've already done the part that I always ask people to do, which is the 10,000 foot view. So thank you for that. I do have a question kind of going back to when you were in college. And just to be clear, did you deploy after college or before? During. Oh, wow. Okay.
So I joined the Army when I was in high school. So I was 17. And then I deployed my sophomore year. I actually deployed twice. I deployed my sophomore year to Iraq. And then my second deployment was to Macedonia. And that was in May. So I actually didn't go to my college graduation either. So.
Wow. What was that experience like? You know, I'm not familiar with the kind of military experience in college. So for those who are not aware, could you walk us a little bit through what that process looked like?
Yeah, I think I learned a ton about discipline and about teamwork. I don't think that I would be the person that I am today. And I didn't even say this, but I also run a company.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
I didn't even say this, but I currently am the CEO and co-founder of a company. And I definitely think that being in the military helped me build those skills to collaborate and work with other people and be flexible in my thinking and in my approach to different tasks. And so for me, it was very, very great. It was very developmental. Some of my long-term friends came from my military background and you travel a lot, you get some good food. I mean, yeah.
You said that you were a psychology major. And that is quote unquote, it's a science field, but many people consider it like a social science. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about what that major did for you in regards to medicine and how it impacted you?
For folks that don't think that psychology is everything that you do every day in medicine, I have news for you. You're going to become a psychology guru. And not because you're going to be diagnosing anything, but I think psychology teaches you about the fundamental ways that the human mind works and the things that we prioritize in our thinking as we're making our decisions. So when I was treating patients, even in the military and also on the civilian side, one thing that you learn pretty quickly is just because you come into the room with a plan doesn't mean that patient is going to be that's the plan for me. You really do have to create a compelling story around why they should do what you're asking or suggesting. And so I feel like psychology helped me understand the basic fundamentals of that relationship. And then, of course, psychology helped me learn about myself. So when I was in undergrad, I learned a lot about learning and developmental psych. That was one of my concentrations. And I actually used that later to develop my current company, GABA. So I'm really big about learning style assessments and things like that. And just really understanding how to take a lot of information in a way that works best for your mind. So I actually used a lot of what I learned as a psych major to help me be successful as a medical student.
One thing that I wanted to ask about too was, you said that you were a medic. And you realized then that was medicine was for you. Can you talk about that experience in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So as a medic, I was pretty independent. So I ran my own clinic when I was deployed. I trained my own medics that worked with me and trained them in clinical skills and kind of the patient encounter. So it taught me a lot of independence in my clinical judgment. So as a medical student, when I was challenged to do those things, they came very natural to me to kind of take ownership of the clinical encounter and collaborate with the patient towards a certain outcome. And I think being a medic was really important at the time that I went through it, even though I didn't know at the time that I was going into medical school, because I'm a first generation student. So no one in my family is going into medical, doctor, anything. You know, I have CNAs and MAs in my family, but certainly not anyone that went, masters and above. So I think being a medic gave me the confidence to approach a career in medicine and really see myself being able to perform in it well. But we do a lot as a medic. You do IVs, you do, interosseous, you do shots, you can help with surgeries. I think being a medic was the best gift I could have given myself, because I learned so many clinical skills that are probably now rusty now that I've gone to medical school, but needless to say, they created a good foundation.
You brought up something that I thought was very important to discuss, being a first generation medical student and physician in a matter of months. How did that play into your knowledge of the preparation process for medical school, and how you navigated that journey?
Ooh, okay, looking back, there was so much I needed to know. So I didn't come into medical school knowing about step 1, step 2, step 3. I know that sounds really crazy, but
not just you.
When I got in and everyone was talking about step 1, I'm like, what's that? So I thought I was just like, okay, you got in, you be a doctor at the end of this thing. I didn't realize there was going to be all these successive hurdles I had to get over to prove myself over and over again. I'm like, geez, only 1% of the population gets into medical school, or in theory, I think that's the last statistic. So why do we have to continuously do these things? I also didn't know that it would be so expensive. So like I said, I took the MCAT twice. The first time I took the old MCAT and I got a 23, which for anybody that took the old MCAT, that is not a good score. That is like the 22nd percentile or something. But I was working full-time nights as a CNA and I was self-studying. I didn't have the money to do a preparatory course like Kaplan or anything like that. So I didn't know that it was going to be so expensive. And then I ended up having to retake it, drive out of state to an entirely different state because there were no more slots in Georgia, to drive to Indiana to take it again. So there was definitely a financial hurdle. I learned kind of about the timeline and all of that stuff through Google searches and looking at different forums. But I think because I was doing a DIY post-bac, I wasn't in a formal program. There was a lot that I didn't know. I also think there's something about that also kind of buffered me. Like somehow I think when I talk to my students now that I mentor, there's a lot of anxiety around the process of getting into medical school. And I didn't necessarily have that anxiety because I didn't have people around me to tell me what it was supposed to be like. I was just like, I'm just going to make it work. I didn't have people kind of disparaging me about having to be this perfect person. I knew what I needed in order to be successful, but I didn't know that it was quite as rigorous as it was until I was really in it. And then it was kind of like, well, we're in it. We're just going to try to make the best of it. But there was definitely a learning hurdle. Social capital is everything. I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And I wish, looking back, that I'd had a mentor or an advisor to help me, because that would have changed the game tremendously for me in terms of like even my first year struggles would have been totally different.
And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you a follow-up question. What role did mentors play, getting into medical school? Now that, you knew you had that learning curve of getting there, when you got there, what role did mentors play in that?
Yeah, so I didn't have mentors, and I definitely should have had them. And I think that's why GABA is structured the way that it is in terms of matching students with study tools and what we kind of classify as support services. So mentors and tutors, because I realized kind of in hindsight that there were bumps along my path that maybe I could have smoothed out if I just had someone to help guide me. Everyone has bumps on the road, but mentorship can definitely sand some of those bumps down just by empowering you with knowledge.
Yes, thank you again. And I said this to you a while back when we were talking, but thank you for becoming what you needed. It takes a different level of maturity, but also insight and determination to do that. The other thing I wanted to ask too, with regards to the bumps in the road, when you look at the first MCAT versus the second MCAT, you kind of alluded to this, but what were the differences in how you approached them? And how did that help you?
Yeah. So the first time I self-studied, and I think I used exam cracker, one of those things with exam or fire or crack in it. One of those things. And I used that one, and I struggled. And so the second time I realized, okay, I need a preparatory course to do this. However, my finances have been changed. I'm still working full-time nights as a nurse assistant. I'm not making any additional money. So how can I make this more cost effective for myself? And I did that by participating in a summer enrichment program through Morehouse, actually, that was designed to help students who had taken the MCAT previously but needed some additional support. And so one of the big perks of participating in that program is you get the Kaplan curriculum included in your participation. So I did that, and I felt that was what helped give me a lift in the right direction. It wasn't like a cure-all because right. I still had to, I still worked, even though I wasn't necessarily supposed to. I still had to work while I was in the program. So time is your most valuable currency, and that hadn't changed. But I did get close enough to the 50th percentile, I think, to like nudge me over somebody's acceptance list. And so, yeah, so I do think that helped. I wouldn't credit that necessarily to the Kaplan. I definitely would credit it to a variety of different resources and just like having support. Like the program at Morehouse was there was a lot of support, and there were people that looked like me that were on the other side that were there to like be a visual reminder that this is in fact possible. I just need to keep pushing. So I think that was huge. And even when I realized this was a problem and I wanted to do something about it, I'm like, am I the appropriate person to do this? But when I looked around and saw the students that were having this challenge, I was like, I'm the perfect person to do this because I embody so many of the elements of the people that are struggling with this.
Right.
So to students that don't have mentors and don't have support, come to me. That is what we are here for.
Yeah, when we're all here to support you, definitely please reach out.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask you too is you are unique in the sense that you do a dual degree program. You have an MD-MBA. And so can you talk about why you decided to do the MBA portion and how you got into that?
Yeah. So I've always had an interest in business. And when I was working, the more and more I worked in medicine, the more I realized how important it was to empower yourself with many different ways to impact the clinical environment. Like people forget that, yes, patient care is important, health outcomes are important, but medicine at the end of the day is a business. And the decisions that are made are really made off of, revenue and expenses. People are just concerned about what's the profit and where the loss is. And so going into an environment where I wanted to serve the underserved, I wanted to have a positive impact, I really thought, let me think about this thing with a little bit more dimensionality and say, okay, I can affect this from a political standpoint. I can do this through a business lens. I can do this through a clinical lens. And how do I create a space for myself where I can do one and another thing? And so politics, I had an interest, but it wasn't really my thing. Business definitely resonated more with me. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had more health systems that are led by physicians who also have business skills, like the Cleveland Clinic, and it's been shown to actually improve the function and the longevity of the health system, and also the health and wellness of the patients that participate within the health system. And so, right now the statistic is like only 6% of physicians go into hospital leadership in a CEO type role. To me, that's really sad, because what we're doing is we're giving over the power to really change lives in a different way to people who have no experience in the clinical environment. Those roles, in my mind, should be doctor led. And so, but in order for us to get to that place, we have to have more doctors that are not afraid to step up and speak business the same way that they speak medicine. And so I wanted to become that kind of physician.
Yes. And yes. And you can tell that she's a fourth year because we got that down pat. Thank you. I also wanted to ask you, a lot of people are interested in many dual degree programs like MD-MPH, MD-MBA, MD-PhD, what have you. And what I wanted to ask you is that your program specifically, is it something that people could apply to like as they were applying to medical school? Is it something they could decide midway through that, hey, I want to do this and then jump in?
Yeah. So I did not apply, like I jumped in. So I definitely can say if you want to pre-apply to a dual degree program, do so. But there are also ways to get in the middle. The MD-MBA program actually didn't exist at Morehouse when I applied, and they created it my second year. And so I knew some of the students that were going to go into that first class of MD-MBA candidates. I was able to learn from their experience, and I knew this is definitely what I wanted to do. So I actually applied for the program after my third year. But so it didn't really exist. So I would say as windows and doors open, do not be afraid to climb through them, especially if that's already been on your heart and it's already been resonant with you. Like business was already very much in my bloodstream. It just was a matter of how do I get there? If you already know and you haven't figured out, one, kudos to you, because I never know. I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. I still don't know what I'm trying to do with this life. But if you know in advance, definitely apply early, and when you're going through the whole cycle. So yeah.
Because some people think about, well, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not super sure. Can I decide later? The answer is yes, you can. Yes. And this goes for many other fields as well. I know that at Mayo, multiple people have decided in the middle of medical school to pursue a master's in public health, for instance. Mm-hmm. Even things like an MD-JD is possible as well for those who want to do law and medicine. Mm-hmm. So there are so many options that you can explore, but don't feel pressured to explore them right now. You have time.
Definitely not. You have time.
The other thing I wanted to ask too is, you wear many hats, one of which is a CEO. So can you talk about the experience of being a med student and a CEO, and what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. Basically, I don't sleep. I'm just kidding. No. It's actually a lot of fun. My day-to-day, I work I do not work a 9 to 5. I pull 10 to 12 hour days sometimes on behalf of my company. And so there's definitely a lot of time management. And that's why I tell people that are kind of going into the entrepreneurial space to pick something you are passionate about, like something that burns you up. And it burns me up to think of, really talented, passionate, underrepresented minorities, women, and first generation students who are just not getting a shot. I think it's incredibly classist, honestly, of our system that we don't have more support mechanisms in place to help those students be successful and matriculate successfully. And so one, pick something you're passionate about, and that'll help fuel you. And then I think the rest, oddly enough, falls into place. Like I'm a fourth year, which everyone will tell you is like the year of, it's just that great year.
Where the time resides.
It's the year where you can walk in late and leave early and nobody's going to say anything to you.
Oh, bless God.
I have made it. You really do feel VIP. Like when they come in and they're like, what year are you in? Your fourth year, they just walk on past you. They know you're no longer playing the game. I'm not. So there's a lot of time management in there, but I definitely say that like what I do with GABA is what gets me out of bed every morning. What I do with medicine is a product of that. And I'm inspired by the students that participate with us.
There may be somebody who's thinking of starting something that is passion, like that is their passion, but they don't know, can I keep this up with med school? Where can I do it? And to that point, fourth year is the year that I feel like I've had the most time. I mean, fourth year is when I started this YouTube channel. And thankfully to God, I've been able to keep it up for as long as it has been up. So it is, you do have some kind of time to pursue your passions. And even before fourth year, you do have time to explore some interests as well. I mean, I love church choir and I was able to do that for 4 years. And so if whatever you're interested in, don't lose hold of your passion. As long as it is key to your identity, don't lose hold of that, because that's how you cope. That's how you wake up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get a team. Definitely build a team of folks. Like I did not create GABA on my own. I have a team of 6. And, so they help extend me in ways that I couldn't possibly imagine. You can't do everything by yourself, but I think something that's overlooked is that medicine in this really beautiful way prepares you for business. And no one really knows that until you're doing it. Business is very much just another body. And when things in business fail or they're underperforming, There are certain inputs, just like any organ system, and then there are certain outcomes. And so your job is to diagnose what's going on from a business standpoint so that you can manage those inputs to change the outcome. So medicine really teaches you the fundamentals of being a business-minded person. And a lot of people don't know there's a lot of research and data involved in being a successful business person. And so being able to pour through research and data and make some interpretations of that, those are fundamental skills you get as a medical student, which will propel you, light years ahead of your business counterparts who may not necessarily have that background.
And that is speaking to me because it kind of lends to the fact that this is not an exclusive thing that only a few people can do. If you have a passion and it's something that you're thinking about, it means that you're qualified. You just have to pursue it.
Yes, absolutely. You do not need a whole MBA to be a business person.
Do your research first.
You don't need a whole MBA. Go out there, build your team, get some folks together, and make your ideas happen. I think it's so sad that medical people don't have enough time almost to make these changes. And I think medical people are the best people to create some of these innovations that we're seeing in healthcare. So definitely get out there if you have an idea.
Let's say someone out there, sees this and says, oh my God, I would love any tips you have, any questions, or they have questions, about your entire journey, because I feel like you have so much to offer people. How do people get connected with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on GABA, which is gogaba.co, not com, y'all. Okay. That is someone else. I don't know who those people are. Gogaba.co. You can sign up there. My username is something.beyond. And so you can connect with me there. You can also email me. So it's candice.blacknall@gogaba.co. And I'm responding to my email basically like text message. So go figure, you can reach me there. I'm not an expert of any one thing, but I can tell you my story. But what I love about GABA and what I love about this channel is the ability to bring many voices and many experiences together so we can all learn and grow from one another.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful. And y'all, I was on GABA a couple days ago, I think it was last week, talking about my story and trying to use that as a platform to reach people as well. So I just want to commend you, and thank you for your service both to the country, but also to the students, because it's true. This is a service, right? It's something that you're doing out of your passion and your desire to see people move forward and get better.
Thank you. I'm so inspired by this channel. Plus, I'm not a YouTube guru. So the fact that you have made this such a beautiful and growing community, I'm like, that's inspirational.
Thank you very much.
It is a business of its own. So hats off to you, fellow entrepreneurs.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you all for watching this video. It's always nice to see people who support and also are learning, because this is the point of all of this that we're doing, is to help you. And so please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, if you'd like to connect with any one of us, or if you just need support. Sometimes we're just there to say, yes, you can, please keep going. And that is okay for us as well. But thank you, everybody. Once again, this has been the NSSR with your host, MÍtalks. Have some peace in your life and bring peace to someone else by being kind to them. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Nice meeting y'all.
Feel free to check out other videos on this channel, such as our interviews and our topic videos as well. I have a whole series dedicated to deciding on medicine and the steps to get into it. Definitely check out those videos that are right there, and also those that are right there. All right, guys. Bye.